The album was open on the living room table, and the plastic of the pages made that fake rain sound when I turned them slowly. The photographic paper shone under the yellow lamp, but the light seemed to avoid my face like someone dodging a hole in the sidewalk. In almost all the old family photos, I was in a corner in half shadow, with my shoulder cut off by the edge, or behind someone shorter. In my cousin's baptism photo, I appeared as a shadow with a bow. In the 2013 Christmas photo, only my hand holding the plate was visible. It was as if the album didn't hate me, it just didn't recognize me. My mother's house smelled of hairspray and beans. The ants talked loudly in the kitchen, one scraping the bottom of the pan, another testing the karaoke microphone that my cousin insisted on bringing to every party. My sister, in a rehearsed gown and trained smile, twirled around the room with her friend's mother, checking if the highlighter popped correctly on her cheekbone. "It's perfect, honey. Your skin accepts any light," my mother said, and the phrase landed as lightly as glitter. I closed the album and stared at my own hand resting on the cover. The knuckles a little darker, the nails painted wine red, the skin that so many people said weighed heavily. "Open to Grandpa's birthday, sis?" my sister asked without looking at me much. "I want to post the speech for a TBT. It'll be cute." Opened it. The main portrait was the long table in the backyard, red balloons, the two-tiered prop cake, the whole family in the center. Me at the end of the table, cut off by the photographer's frame and the rush to fit. A silent movie played in my head of the first time they pushed me to the back seat at my cousin's wedding, because you're tall and you steal the light, of the nude lipstick they gave me so you don't draw attention, of the light concealer they insisted on putting on my dark circles to lighten you up a bit. I stuck my finger on the plastic and the sheet stuck for a second, as if I could pull back the missing part of myself. "Are you going to speak at the toast?" asked, still looking at the photo. "Of course," she said, smoothing the fabric of her gown. "But no improvising, okay? The event planner said there's a script so we don't go off track. And," she looked at me attentive, "wear a more neutral lipstick today, please. The photographer said my skin tone looks beautiful with warm tones around, but..." The sentence died in a gesture, like someone rearranging flowers in a vase. My aunt came from behind with a can of spray. "Turn, princess," and she sprayed glitter on my sister's hair. Then she took a step back, measured me with her eyes, and smiled like someone who doesn't want to be caught in the act. "You look better natural, you know? Your skin is so strong you don't need anything. Natural. Strong. Words my family always used as tape to wrap what they didn't know how to say. I felt the old pang in my chest, that small blade that appears when someone chooses my appearance as a focus adjustment. I left the album and went to the veranda. The wind was warm, and the neighbors were hanging their team's flags on the wall. My phone vibrated with notifications from the official family group. Heart icons, fireworks, diploma emojis. The event planner had sent the schedule, parents' entrance, godparents' slideshow, the beauty of our graduate. The file was under my mother's name. I opened the PDF. I scrolled through the slides. Childhood photos, A-line dresses, ballerina outfits, school uniforms. I looked for one where I was with her. Almost none. In the three where I appeared, the contrast was so high that my skin became the background. I smiled without humor. The editing had hands. "Can you bring the tripod for me to record the speech?" my sister asked from the door, excited. "I want to post the whole thing." "I'll bring it," I replied, and my voice came out clean like filtered water. I went back to the living room to get my backpack, and the album pulled me in again. I opened the back cover, where my mother always kept little papers and receipts for 3x4 photos. 2 old Polaroids and a crumpled invitation to a June party fell out. Under them, a folded paper with my name written in pencil. Opened it. It was the guest list for the main table. My name was crossed out, and next to it, someone had written "better" on the side. The radio in the kitchen crackled. The music stopped and a makeup store ad came on. "Illuminate your best version." My aunt laughed at some joke I didn't get. My eyes drifted to the oval mirror hanging on the wall, where I appeared whole for a second, with my braids tied up, my simple dress, and a lipstick I liked precisely because it didn't ask for permission. I remembered my first photo shoot in college, when I discovered that the right light was a matter of positioning, not permission. My phone vibrated again. The group chat was still going. My mother. Guys, no close-ups on her tomorrow, okay? The camera isn't flattering. The audio played by itself loud before I could turn it down. Silence. The voices from the kitchen faded and then pretended they hadn't heard. I put my earphone in and slipped out, my heart pounding rhythmically in my ribs. I sat on the backyard steps and scrolled up the conversation. There were old, archived messages, like someone hiding cracked dishes in the utility room closet. She pulls the light. A cooler filter is better on her. Don't let her speak at the toast. The newest one was from yesterday. The event planner confirming the beautiful slideshow and my mother sending a glitter sticker. In the midst of the balloons, a dry sentence from someone who didn't sign. She doesn't represent us. I read it slowly once, twice, 3 times. She doesn't represent us. The words weren't a knife, they were a hammer. They didn't cut, they pounded. I closed the conversation, breathed in through my nose until the air filled my lungs, and let the sounds of the house return. The sizzling pan, the aunt's laughter, the rehearsal of Happy Birthday. The backyard smelled of laundry on the line and something slightly burning. On the veranda, my sister was filming a video with her best friend. Her arm extended, the angle already trained to catch the light on her good side. My mother, in the background, was adjusting a plastic vase and wiping the frame of my grandmother's photo. The phone vibrated one more time, insistent. I tapped the notification without thinking, and the conversation opened exactly to the line I didn't want to reread. The same sentence, now with a reply underneath, a praying hands emoji and a purple heart. She doesn't represent us. That's when I understood that tomorrow wasn't just my sister's graduation. It was my light test. I spent the night almost sleepless, listening to the sound of the fan stirring the hot air in the room and the hum of cars on the avenue. The echo of that phrase, she doesn't represent us, came and went like a persistent drop hitting the same spot over and over. I tried to push it away, but it seeped inside, mixed with the smell of the cream I put on my braids and the creak of the single bed that still made noise like in my teenage years. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the light of the slideshow, too white, and the contrast that erased me. Before dawn I got up. I made coffee and left the cup cooling on the sink. The house was asleep, and this was the only time it seemed to fit me. I picked up my phone and opened the group chat again. I scrolled to the beginning. I found old messages from the time the family was preparing my sister's birthday. No matching dresses, okay? Her makeup is lighter to match. Don't put the two of them in the same frame, it's confusing. With each line, a memory clicked into place. The invitation that arrived last, the official photo cropped, the compliment that always had a comma before it. You look beautiful, but your color is heavy in photos. I opened the audio folder. My mother's came first. She was talking to the event planner, her voice sweet, controlled. Be careful with the close-ups on her, okay? Warm light makes her skin look a bit grayish, like a shadow. The other girl is lighter, she stands out more. Then my aunt's. Can you lighten the video a bit? Put a neutral filter on it, she looks too saturated. And my cousin's laughing. That girl has a glow that the camera doesn't understand, it's like a trick. I stood there for a while, expressionless. The world outside was waking up. The neighbor's rooster, a truck passing slowly, the sound of a gate opening. But inside me, it was pure silence, as if even my blood was waiting for my reaction. I didn't cry. Instead, I opened the recorder and saved all the audios, renaming them with the time and date. Mom under voice 1, Aunt and servant, cousin and laugh. I created a new folder on the drive named Natural Light. Maybe it was an instinct, maybe a photographer's habit. I learned early on that all light, before being beautiful, needs to be measured. I thought about the times they asked me to stand in the back for the school photo, because the background is darker and you disappear. Or the college campaign where they suggested a girl with more neutral features. At the time I had swallowed it, telling myself it was the market, the aesthetic, the standard. Now I saw the same script inside my own home. I went to the mirror. The sun was beginning to break through the lace curtain, drawing golden spots on my face. I looked at each one. My dark skin reflected the glow firmly, as if returning the sun with the same intensity. Was this what they called a shadow? Was this what bothered them so much? The fact that I didn't fade, even when they tried. I picked up the camera I used for work. I turned it on, fine-tuned the ISO, focused on my face and shot. The image appeared sharp on the viewfinder. Balanced light, vivid color, exact texture. I took a few more, testing different color temperatures. All beautiful. None needed a filter. I saved the files with short names. Proof 1, Proof 2, Proof 3. I left them stored like someone keeping silent ammunition. When I left the room, my mother was already up, ironing. "Did you sleep well?" she asked without looking up. "I did," I lied. She told me the event planner would come to pick up the extra invitations and that the film crew would stop by to test the video projection. I just listened, drinking the cold coffee. "And are you coming with us to the graduation, right?" she insisted, trying to sound natural. "Your sister really wants you there." "I'm going," I replied, and I noticed the small relief in her sigh, like someone marking mandatory attendance in a family portrait. Picked up my phone again. I created a new group with just myself, to save the proofs and messages. I called it Colors Sound. I sent everything there one by one. When I finished, I looked at the history. 30 files between screenshots, audios and photos. A complete story told by those who thought no one was listening. I sat on the bed, let the weight of my body fall. I knew it was no use exploding. I had already learned the price of speaking too soon. What I needed was to see, to observe, to calculate the exact timing of the response. That's how light worked. It didn't impose itself. It waited for the right moment to break through. As the sun rose, I opened the Notes app and wrote a single line. They cut me out of the photo, but they forgot I learned how to adjust the focus. I left my phone on the sheet and rested my head against the wall. Something was being born there, not revenge yet. Just the kind of silence that precedes a flash. And before closing my eyes, I thought, if anyone out there has also been cut out of the photo, stay. We need to learn to illuminate each other. On Saturday morning, the downtown hall was crowded. The smell of setting spray mixed with sweet perfume formed a mist that stuck to the skin. The event planner walked from side to side with a tablet in hand, checking the guest list. My sister was sitting in a high chair, covered by a black apron, her hair being styled in large waves. I stayed in a corner, observing everything from behind the camera lens, pretending I was still just a photographer, and not the portrait they preferred to hide. "Neutral base, okay?" said the makeup artist. "She has warm skin, but if we go too golden, it gets heavy." My sister nodded, confident. The woman looked at me and said, almost smiling, "For you, dear, I would just use a moisturizer. Your skin already has a lot of natural glow and, the camera sometimes gets confused." The phrase landed lightly but hit deep. Confused. What for them was always a mistake, for me was truth. I stayed silent, just adjusting the camera's focus. Through the lens, the difference in treatment was a living contrast. My sister framed under white light, a well-positioned reflector, assistants applying translucent powder on the sides. Me capturing the reflection of the light bursting on her, invisible in the same room. My mother appeared with a bouquet and a tense smile. "Honey, don't forget to use the lighter concealer. And you," she looked at me, "did you bring the tripod?" "It's in the car," I replied. "Then go get it now before I forget." I went out and the hot street air hit me. As I walked, I noticed my reflection in the window of the shop next door. A simple dress, my skin reflecting the sun as if the mirror was returning a color that no one wanted to learn to see. Stop. I took the camera out of my bag and pointed it at myself. Blick. The photo captured the glow that the makeup artist called a mistake. I returned with the tripod and found my sister being photographed by a professional from the team. She was posing with her gown open, showing the dress underneath, a pastel shade that contrasted perfectly with the white background. The light was calibrated for her, every shadow controlled. When I got closer, the photographer glanced at me and said, "Could you step out of the frame for a bit, miss?" just to test the lighting. I stepped out. I observed, registering it in my memory. My sister's makeup, the forced laughter of the aunts, my mother adjusting her necklace. None of these scenes were new. The difference was that, this time I was noting everything, mentally and on camera. While she was taking the photos, one of the bridesmaids commented without lowering her voice. "They're both beautiful, but the graduate is lucky. That fair skin helps, right? It looks better on video." Laughter. Disguised complicity. My mother replied softly, but loud enough to hurt. "The other one takes after my father. I always said it was harder for her." The words reached me as if they had been recorded in stereo. Suddenly, everything in the room slowed down. The spinning brush, the flashing flash, the sound of the makeup case zipper. I recorded that moment in my head with clarity, like someone framing a piece of evidence. When the shoot was over, my sister called me. "Take one with me, come on. Just to post an after and before." We stood side by side. The makeup artist looked through the viewfinder and said, Wait. Take a little step back, dear. Otherwise, the contrast will blow out." One step back. As always, I smiled, obedient. Click. On the viewfinder I saw the result. She in the center, illuminated. Me in partial shadow. But what no one noticed was that, at the same instant, my camera also fired, capturing the reflection in the salon mirror, where we appeared inverted. Me in front, sharp, her a bit washed out by too much light. While everyone was laughing, I emailed the file to myself and deleted the trace of the sending. I named the attachment, mirrorsruth.jpg. On the way out, my mother caught up with me on the sidewalk. "Honey, don't take people's ways to heart. It's just so your sister can shine. Today is her day." I looked at her and, for a second, I wanted to ask how many times one's shine needed to extinguish the others for the family to breathe in peace. But I said nothing. I just smiled, that smile of someone who has understood everything for a long time. When we got to the car, my sister opened her phone and proudly showed the video of the shoot. Her face lit up the screen like an advertisement for perfection. Behind her, in the reflection of the mirror, I appeared sharp for an instant. Observing, she paused it, laughed. "Wow, that reflection looks great. It's almost scary." "Yeah," I replied. "Sometimes the light shows what no one wants to see." She didn't understand. But I understood enough. As the car pulled away, I discreetly took the memory card out of the camera and put it in my purse, next to the black flash drive where I had been storing the things no one wanted me to see. The sun beat down on the car window, reflecting the same glow they had always accused me of having too much of. This time I let it stay. I spent the rest of the day with that feeling that something was moving inside me, slowly but with direction. It was as if every sidelong glance and every veiled comment had finally found a place to settle. When I got home, the silence greeted me like an old acquaintance. I took off my shoes, turned on the fan, and sat in front of the computer. The screen reflected the blue light on my face, and for an instant, I saw myself as in the portraits they had always avoided. Whole in the center without asking for permission. I connected the memory card and opened the files. The sound of the click echoed in the room, like a metronome of my calm. The images lined up one by one. My sister smiling, my mother with teary eyes, the aunts adjusting her dress, and me in shadows. I opened them, compared them, cropped them. In the middle of the sequence, I found the mirror photo. The one where the reflection swapped our places. I zoomed in. In the reflection, I looked confident, my gaze firm. Outside of it, erased. I saved it as base. Then, I opened the downloads folder and clicked on the slideshow my mother had sent to the event planner. The beauty of our graduate. I waited for it to load. The photos slid across the screen with smooth transitions, golden frames, and generic phrases about overcoming. Paused them one by one. When my image appeared, it was always in the shadows, with exaggerated contrast, the sharpness deliberately reduced. Some even had a cool filter that pulled the tone towards gray. In the last one, the final sentence. Proud of who reflects our light. Reflects. Never emits. Always the mirror, never the sun. I hit pause and stared at that frozen screen. My sister's face shone under white light. In the background, a shadow me. The reflected light. I took a screenshot. I zoomed in on the pixels. There was a small symbol in the bottom corner. The logo of the editing program the family photographer used. I opened my mother's computer's trash bin, which was connected to the same network. Inside, dozens of deleted files. Test 1 under-edited. Light under-subversion. Clean under-subversion. Open the first one. There it was. The original photo, unedited. My skin vivid, warm, with a true glow. In the final version, the glow had been reduced. The shadows increased. The editing was the proof. I created a new folder, named it raw_mirror, and started copying everything. Every image, every draft, every attempt to erase me. I also opened the email conversations automatically saved in my mother's account. There were exchanges with the photographer. Avoid photos with the two of them together. It creates a tone difference. Illuminate the background to balance the color. Try to correct her shadow, otherwise it weighs on the screen. The messages were dated from the last 2 weeks. I took a deep breath. This was more than aesthetic carelessness. It was a method. An organized erasure. I plugged in the black flash drive. Copied everything. I created a second copy in the cloud with a password. With each transferred file, a memory returned. The time I asked to be the photographer at my cousin's party and they said, "You're good behind the scenes." The time they asked if I was from the kitchen staff at a family birthday, the neighbor's comment, "Your sister looks like an only child, doesn't she?" The anger came, but not in an explosion. It was the kind that spreads like diffuse light, without anyone noticing, but illuminating everything. The early morning had already passed when I realized I was still there, motionless, with a fan blowing hot air on the back of my neck. I closed the notebook and rested my forehead in my hands. Outside, the street was asleep. On my phone, the notification blinked. A new message from the event planner in the group chat. Confirmed. General rehearsal tomorrow at 6 p.m. Video test included. I opened the message. Below, a PDF attached with the hall map, the order of the toasts, and the equipment list. Projector. 2 HDMI inputs plus one side USB, reserved for staff use. The detail of the USB made my heart beat faster. The pieces began to align in the dark. The black flash drive seemed to pulsate on the table, waiting to be used. I went to my mother's room, the door ajar. She was sleeping with a television on, an old program. The flickering image of a white presenter talked about natural beauty, while the sound came out staticky. On her nightstand, her phone blinked with the reflection of the slideshow. I thought about waking her up, about asking why since forever. But what I really wanted wasn't an answer. It was silence. And space to act. I went back to my room, opened the email of the hall's sound technician, whom I met when I photographed another event there months ago. I sent a short message. "Hi, it's Lucia. I need a quick video test tomorrow before the ceremony. Can you release the access to the side USB port for a few minutes? Thanks." I sent it. Closed the notebook. I lay down looking at the ceiling, the fan blades spinning in a measured rhythm. For the first time in a long time, the darkness of the room didn't swallow me. Seemed complicit. I picked up the flash drive, closed it in my palm, and whispered to myself, with a calm that sounded almost dangerous, "No one erases what has already learned to illuminate itself." And in that instant, I realized that my plan wouldn't be a scream. It would be a projection. The general rehearsal began in the late afternoon, when the hall was still half empty, but already had the sweet smell of flowers and the hum of fans trying to beat the heat. The golden chairs were lined up in rows, the stage set up with a banner, "Pride and Overcoming," and the big screen was on standby, a vibrant blue screen that seemed to be watching me back. My mother arrived first, with the dress wrapped in plastic. She gave instructions to everyone, walking in low heels and a tense expression. My sister, in a light sweatshirt and a high bun, seemed made of light, surrounded by laughter, flashes, and phones. Every time someone said, "So beautiful," she would smile and look at me, as if checking if I was watching. And I was. But not in the way she imagined. I stayed in the background, pretending to mess with my camera. In reality, I was just observing the gestures. The way the event planner diverted me from the frame. The way my mother included me only when she needed something practical. "Honey, bring some water for your sister, will you?" she asked without looking. I got the bottle, handed it to her, and went back to my corner. With each step, I remembered the audios I had listened to the night before, the muffled laughter, the words chosen so carefully to seem harmless. Later the sound technician arrived. A thin man with a stubble. He recognized me from afar. "Lucia, right? The photographer from last year's conference." He smiled complicit. "Your email came through, it's all set. I've already released the side USB. He nodded. "Thanks, I'll only need it for a few minutes." The rehearsal began. The lights were tested, the musical track adjusted. The slideshow video was played twice. I watched carefully. The final _version file was saved on the team's flash drive, plugged into the right side of the projector. On the other side, empty, the perfect slot was waiting for mine. My sister laughed on stage, repeating her thank you speech with the lightness of someone who has never had to carry the weight of justifying herself. "I thank my family, who has always supported me, valued me, saw me as I am." Her voice sounded sweet, but the word always scratched me. With each repetition, that always became a thorn. I was proof that support had a color. When the rehearsal ended, the event planner gathered everyone. "Tomorrow, no delays. And remember, improvisations break the rhythm." She looked at me quickly, as if sending a disguised message. He nodded. I went to the technician and thanked him again. "Tomorrow, can I test it early? Just to make sure the equipment reads the format well." "Of course, I get here at 4. I left the hall slowly. Outside, the sky was coppery, and the wind brought the smell of rain. I walked to the bus stop and sat on the metal bench. I looked at my hands. On them, small specks of paint and glitter, remains of rehearsals, cameras, portraits. I picked up my phone and opened the official family group. The day's messages were a sequence of photos of my sister in the hall, accompanied by hearts and emojis. No one mentioned my name. I wrote in my notepad, "If they think hiding me is protection, tomorrow they will find out what happens when the shadow decides to turn on." I saved it. On the way home, the bus swayed and the sound of the passengers mixed with the music coming from the driver's earphones. I looked out the window and saw the reflection of my face in the glass. The street passed by quickly, but my reflection remained, firm, centered, unerased. When I got home, my mother was on the phone, excited. "Yes, it's going to be beautiful. The youngest's graduation is the whole family's achievement." "The whole family's," I repeated in silence. I went to my room, turned on the notebook, and connected the flash drive. The video was ready, the mosaic I had assembled in the early morning. My sister as a child, my mother laughing, the voices from the group fading in, then the original photos, the edited versions, and the final sentence appearing slowly over the image of the mirror. The right light always existed. All that was missing was someone who wasn't afraid to turn it on. I stared at the video in the dark. The heavy breathing of the house came from the hallway. My mother, as always, watching TV loudly. I thought about what was coming. It wasn't about revenge. It was about returning. Showing what they had taught me without realizing. The truth never needs a caption. I sent a copy to the event planner's email with the subject, "Final update, test version, I signed only, projection team." I turned off the computer. The wind came in through the window, and the curtain swayed like a deep breath. I picked up the flash drive, taped it to the back of the team badge, and left my phone charging next to it. Before going to bed, I looked in the mirror. The hallway light cut me in half, drawing shadow and glow on the same face. I smiled. And almost without realizing, I thought aloud, in a firm whisper like a prayer, "Tomorrow, I will be the one representing the family." I woke up before the alarm. The room was still dark, but the light was beginning to seep through the cracks in the window like a restrained breath. The distant sound of birds and cars mixed with the hum of the fan. I lay there for a few seconds, motionless, feeling the slight weight of the moment. That instant between before and after, between what was and what is about to be revealed. I got up slowly, as if not wanting to wake my own destiny. I made coffee and sat at the table, watching the steam rise. The night before, I had reviewed the video more than 20 times. Every cut, every transition, every second of audio was chosen with millimeter precision. The truth couldn't seem like anger. It had to sound like a mirror. I didn't want to hurt. I wanted them to see. I picked up the black flash drive, the same one that had been hidden under the old photos at the bottom of the drawer. I ran my finger over it, as if it were an amulet. The smooth surface reflected the little light that entered through the kitchen. On my phone, messages started to pop up. Bring the neutral lipstick, don't forget the closed-toe shoes. A light smile, no exaggerations. The words seemed like instructions for invisibility. I took a deep breath. I put the flash drive in my purse, along with the camera, the badge, and a small envelope I had written in the early morning. On it, a single sentence. Every shadow is born from something that shines. I left the house before 7. The sky was covered with clouds, and the air had that damp smell of the eve of rain. On the way, I looked at the reflection in the windows of the buildings, trying to see myself in them. Some returned a blurry image, others showed me sharp. I thought about how many times since childhood I had been taught to see myself only through the eyes of others. Today, for the first time, I would choose my own lens. I arrived at the hall before the team. The sound technician greeted me with a discreet nod. "Did you bring the video to test?" he asked. "I did," I replied. He plugged the flash drive into the side port, and the screen flickered. In seconds, the first frame of the video appeared. My sister as a child running in the backyard. The image was innocent, familiar. "It's beautiful," he said. Not knowing what would come next, I nodded. "Yes, it's beautiful." We did the sound and image test. Everything worked perfectly. The technician confirmed. "You can leave it saved here. The system will recognize it automatically tomorrow." "Great," I replied. "That way no one needs to touch it." I unplugged the flash drive, put it away, and thanked him. The plan was set. Simple, silent, and impossible to ignore. Later, when the rest of the family arrived, the atmosphere filled with voices and perfume. My mother spoke loudly, nervous about the schedule. "Everything ready. I don't want any unforeseen events. This night is your sister's, you understand, Lucia." The name came out almost as a warning. "I understand," I replied, smiling. "It will be an unforgettable night." She didn't notice the double meaning. I spent the rest of the morning helping with the preparations, arranging flowers, testing lights. The official photographer tried to adjust the framing and asked me to step aside, so as not to interfere with the color balance. He obeyed, and I took a photo of him doing it, another piece of my invisible archive. In the afternoon, I went to my sister's dressing room. She was beautiful, I couldn't deny that. The white dress with gold details contrasted with the light background of the mirror. "Can I do your makeup?" I asked. "Really?" She seemed surprised. "I thought you didn't even want to participate." "I do." I picked up the brush and began. "Close your eyes." As I applied the eyeshadow, I saw up close the face that had always been considered representable. I thought of all the times I had to step back so that this same face could shine. But now, seeing her up close, I noticed something new. She was trembling. Her fingers fidgeted on her phone, and the pulse in her neck betrayed her nervousness. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Just afraid of messing up the speech," she replied. "Mom wants me to read it word for word." Smiled. "Sometimes it's good to go off script." She opened her eyes and looked at me through the mirror. For a second I thought she would understand. But she looked away. "Thanks. It's perfect," she said, returning to her rehearsed smile. I left the dressing room and went to the courtyard, where the sun was finally breaking through the clouds. The light hit me directly, reflecting on my golden earrings. I felt the warmth on my skin, firm, non-negotiable. I remembered the makeup artist's words. "The camera gets confused with so much glow." Maybe that was what bothered them, the fact that the glow didn't obey. I picked up my phone and reread the email I had sent to the event planner the night before. Test version. Please use this file for the main playback. No reply, but the delivery notification was marked as read. I felt a shiver of certainty tomorrow. The hall would be a stage. And, for the first time, the light would not be at the service of a lie. As the sun hid behind the buildings, I realized I didn't feel anger. I felt calm. The serenity of someone who already understands that justice, sometimes, is just pressing the right button and letting the truth do the rest. Back home, I laid out my dress and shoes by the bed. My mother called me from the kitchen. Don't forget to get some sleep. Tomorrow you need to be presentable. Smiled. Don't worry, Mom. Tomorrow I'll be illuminated. She laughed, not understanding. When the house turned off its lights, I opened the notebook and watched the video one more time. Only now I saw it differently. Each image, each voice, each edited silence was a portrait of something bigger, a system of centuries disguised in compliments and smiles. I closed the notebook, looked in the mirror and whispered, "Let them see. Let them feel. Let them never again say it was my imagination." The clock read 11:11 p.m. when I turned off the light. And, for the first time, the dark seemed to be on my side. Sunday dawned with a heat that seemed to announce something. The kind of heat that's not just temperature. It's a premonition. I woke up early before the house stirred. The sky was still pale, and the air had that silence that precedes noise. I put on the amber dress I had chosen days before, the same one my mother had called too much for the occasion. The color looked like liquid gold against my skin, and for a moment I felt proud to see myself whole in the mirror. As I applied my wine-red lipstick, I remembered every comment disguised as advice. Wear something neutral. You don't need so much color. Those vibrant clothes are heavy on you. In that instant I realized that what they called heavy was, in fact, presence. And for the first time, I didn't intend to diminish anything. The house began to wake up. The sound of doors slamming, the hairdryer, the smell of expensive perfume. My mother appeared in the hallway with my sister's gown folded over her arms. "Are you going like that?" she asked, looking me up and down. "Like what?" I replied calmly. "Just that color, honey, is very strong. It might be distracting in the photos." "I'm strong, Mom. It's good if it's distracting." Smiled. She looked away, uncomfortable, and continued on. My sister appeared shortly after, beautiful, impeccable. And for a second I remembered when we used to play fashion show in the living room and she would say I was too dark to be a princess. I would laugh, pretend not to care, but I recorded everything without knowing. Today, she looked at me with the same competitive glint and said, "Thanks for being here. It's all going to be okay, right?" "It is," I replied. "Just follow the script." In the car, the silence was heavy. My mother looked straight ahead. My sister applied lipstick in the rearview mirror. I watched the city's movement through the window, the vendors opening stalls, people going to mass, the sun rising slowly. Everything followed its own script, but mine was about to change. When we arrived at the hall, the parking lot was already full. Flashing lights, guests taking photos at the entrance, waiters testing glasses. The event planner greeted us with that automatic smile of someone who controls everything. "Glad you've arrived. The projection is already set up. The video is saved." Certainty shot through my chest with a sweet coldness. She was talking about the video I had sent. I circulated through the hall, helping with the final preparations. Every detail caught my attention. The white flowers on the stage, the red carpet, the glow of the chandeliers reflecting in the glasses. Everything there seemed prepared for a spectacle. They just didn't know which one. Around 7, the guests began to arrive. Cousins, aunts, neighbors, professors. The flashes from cell phones formed a sea of blinking lights, like fireflies of approval. The voices mixed in compliments. "The most beautiful in the family. Her skin glows, it seems made for the camera. Born for this." I stood leaning against the backdrop, observing. No gaze turned to me. And yet I felt as if the focus was entirely where I was. As if my body, standing there, held all the contrast of that scene. The sound technician recognized me and passed by. "Everything's set with the video," he said softly. "Just press play when the event planner gives the signal." I nodded. "Thanks." Time passed slowly until the beginning of the ceremony. The hall gradually darkened, and soft music began to play. My mother and father went up to the stage first, with measured steps and trained smiles. Then my sister, wrapped in applause, raised a symbolic diploma and posed for photos. The event planner took the microphone. "Now we will watch a short video prepared with much love by the family," she announced, her voice emotional. "A tribute to our graduate." The technician looked at me and raised the remote, waiting for confirmation. He nodded. A simple movement of my head. The lights dimmed. The hall plunged into silence. The screen went black for a second, and then the video began. The audience saw my sister as a child, smiling, running through the backyard. The same images from the previous slideshow. The audience relaxed, laughed, murmured. The soft soundtrack lulled the nostalgia. But at 30 seconds the transition changed. The images began to show the cuts. Cropped photos, half a face, an arm without a body. The artificial glow that made part of the skin look grayish. The voices came in gradually, whispered, recognizable. "Avoid the close-up on her. A cool filter looks better. She doesn't represent us." The hall froze. The next image was the mirror photo. Me and my sister inverted. In the reflection, me in front. Outside of it, her behind. Then a simple text appeared on the screen, white on black. The right light always existed. My heart was beating firmly, but calmly. I looked around. No one moved. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. My father's eyes widened. The event planner searched for the remote. The technician kept his focus, obedient. The video continued. It showed for a few seconds the behind the scenes. The group messages, the screenshots, the applied filters, the photographer's signature. Then a short sequence, photos of me taken by me with correct light, sharp, real. The final caption appeared slowly. "There is no shadow when the light is shared." The applause didn't come. Only silence. A dense silence, full of held breath and shame hanging in the air. And I, standing next to the stage, just watched. The truth, at last, was projected. The screen went white for a few seconds, a white so intense it seemed to cleanse the air. Then the video ended abruptly, without music, without a fade-out, just silence. A silence that weighed more than any sound could. I could hear the hum of the reflectors, the muffled sound of people's breathing, the lost click of a phone trying to record something no one knew if they should. My sister was still standing in the center of the stage, holding the microphone with both hands. The smile she had been sustaining throughout the ceremony had dissolved into a spasm. My mother, beside her, looked at me with wide eyes, not of anger but of fear. And my father, motionless, seemed small for the first time. The event planner cleared her throat, nervous. "Folks, it seems there was a technical mistake." She tried to smile, but her voice failed. I took a step forward. "There was no mistake," I said firmly, and the sound of my voice echoed through the hall. "The light was just finally adjusted." The guests looked at each other. Some heads lowered. Others remained up, curious, guilty. The aunts whispered among themselves. The godfather pretended to look at his watch. It was the perfect portrait of cowardice. Everyone seeing, no one saying anything. I slowly climbed the steps to the stage. My sister looked at me, her eyes teary, trying to understand if this was a war or a rescue. I took the microphone from her hand, carefully, and took a deep breath. I didn't come to destroy anything. I came to show what has always been here. I began, my voice trembling but secure. Since I was little, I learned to smile at the edges of photos. To be the shadow that helps others shine. I was told that this was love. That it was family. That it was humility. But it wasn't. It was erasure. The audience was silent. No glass moved, no chair dragged. I continued. They taught me that my color was beautiful, for me. That the problem was the light. That I should wear discreet lipstick, neutral clothes, short smiles. And when I tried to be seen, they told me I pulled too much. Well, today I pulled. I fixed my gaze on my mother. She was trembling, holding her purse against her body. "Don't worry," I said with a half smile. "Nothing here is an invention. Everything you saw was said, recorded, sent. I just changed the setting." My sister took a step forward, her eyes welling up. "Did you want to humiliate me? Here? In front of everyone?" "No," I replied, looking directly at her. "I wanted to free you from the kind of compliment that imprisons you. You don't need to be their light to shine." She cried silently. The sound of her crying broke the tense atmosphere, like a crack in a wall of ice. Some guests began to stir, murmuring words that sounded like prayers. My mother tried to speak, but her voice didn't come out. My father lowered his head, helpless. "You always said my color was beautiful when I wasn't around," I continued. "Today I am around. And it's still beautiful." My sister slowly approached. Her makeup was smudged, but her face was more human than I remembered. "I didn't know it was so ugly," she said softly. "I just repeated what I learned." "Me too," I replied. "But now we can unlearn." For a moment the hall felt lighter. The lights reflected on the walls, and the white of the screen seemed less hostile. The event planner, not knowing what to do, asked, "Do you want me to turn off the projector?" "No," I said. "Leave it on. The light still has things to show." I took the remote and with a click projected the last part of the video. A series of portraits of black women I had photographed in recent months. Neighbors, colleagues, friends, all in their own light. Sincere smiles, vivid colors, fearless gazes. The audience reacted with surprise, then with restrained applause. Gradually the sound grew, not of euphoria, but of recognition. It was as if each clap said, "We saw." My sister held my hand. The contact was shy but true. I felt her warmth mixed with mine, the perfect contrast that the cameras had always tried to avoid. "Thank you," she whispered, "for letting me see." Her voice broke the tension for good. People began to get up. Some applauded, others cried. The sound technician gave me a look of complicity from afar. I turned to the audience, took a deep breath, and with the microphone still in hand, said only, "If you have ever been cut out of the photo of your own story, know, there's still time to put yourself back in the frame." The silence returned, but now it was different. Dense, respectful, full of something new. My sister hugged me. For the first time in years, without mirrors, without filters, without competition. And in that instant, I felt the weight leave my chest, as if every shadow they had pushed me into had found its place in the light. If this story touched you, share it. May it reach those who still believe that beauty is a filter, not the truth. May other lights find their own focus. The embrace with my sister still enveloped me when the lights came on for good. For a second, no one knew how to react. The entire hall seemed to breathe together, as if something invisible had broken in half. People no longer looked at her with distant admiration, nor at me with the usual discomfort. They looked at us, two black women of different shades, finally in the same frame. The event planner, not knowing what to do, tried to resume the schedule. "Well, let's continue with the family toast." Her voice came out trembling, lost in the air. But my sister interrupted her. She took the microphone from my hand, wiped her face and said, "Before any toast, I need to speak." The hall fell silent again. She took a deep breath, and the sound of her breathing seemed to echo throughout the space. "I grew up hearing that I was the pretty one, the presentable one, the one who made them proud. And I believed it. I believed that being accepted meant being right. But today," she looked at me, and a slight tremor ran through her voice, "today I realize that this kind of compliment comes with poison. That, to be the pretty one, I had to believe that my sister should stay in the dark." The audience was motionless. My mother's eyes glistened with tears, but she remained speechless. My father breathed heavily, leaning against his chair, his face downcast. "I want to apologize," my sister continued, her voice firm now. For all the times I laughed, I stayed silent, I accepted. For letting her color be used as a measure of everything I thought was right. The sound of applause began timidly. A woman in the second row, an old school teacher, was the first to clap. Then another. And another. Soon the whole hall was on its feet. I stood still, feeling the applause pass through my body like a warm wave. It was a different kind of applause, not of celebration but of reparation. When the noise subsided, my mother slowly stood up. Her face swollen from crying, her lipstick smudged, but her eyes finally soft. She tried to speak and had to take a deep breath. I did what I thought was right. I wanted to protect you both. I just didn't realize that, in trying to protect one, I was hurting the other. Her words came out torn but sincere. My father approached, holding her shoulder, and added, "We were raised to think that beauty had a right color, that respect had a tone, and we repeated that without thinking. But today," he swallowed hard, "today I saw that what we called harmony was just silence around the pain." My mother looked at me and took a step forward. "Honey, I don't know if you can forgive me, but I want you to know, your color was never the problem. The problem was how long it took us to deserve it." I felt the tears fall, warm but light. They weren't of anger, they were of recognition. I approached and hugged them both. For the first time, that family hug didn't push me to the edge. It included me. The audience applauded again. The event planner, emotional, discreetly wiped her face. The sound technician looked at me from afar and gave me a thumbs up, a small gesture, but full of complicity. My sister took the microphone again. "Today's photo will be different. No crops, no filters, no one behind." She signaled to the photographer. People positioned themselves. Parents on the side, her and me in the center. When the flash went off, I felt the light hit my face and return without distortion. As if, for the first time, the camera had also understood. I looked at the big screen, still on, and saw the captured image in real time. The four of us side by side. No forced contrast, no unwanted shadow. Just presence. My mother hugged me again and whispered in my ear, "You always represented us. We were the ones who took too long to see you." I closed my eyes and let the sound of applause mix with the murmur of the guests. In the corner, an elderly woman with dark skin and a lilac dress was crying in silence. When our eyes met, she put her hand on her chest and nodded. That gesture was worth more than all the apologies of the night. As people dispersed, some came up to me. An old schoolmate who never invited me to parties said, "I remember you in the back of the photos." I didn't know it hurt so much. "It did," I replied, serene. "But now, not anymore." I looked around and felt the hall was different. The same place but a different air. The light seemed softer, and the white of the walls no longer hurt my eyes. My sister approached, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "To the truth," she said, raising one. "To the light," I completed, raising mine. We toasted. And as the clinking of the glasses echoed, I thought of all the black women who, like me, had learned to hide so that others could be seen. I thought of how many were still on the edges of photos, believing they belonged less. It was for them that I was there. For me. For all of us. If this story lit something in you, share it. Perhaps it will find someone who is still in the shadows, waiting for a light that is already theirs. After the toast, the hall seemed to breathe differently. It was the same space as before, but now there was a human warmth that didn't come from the weather, it came from the reconciled air. People walked more slowly, looked at me in a new way, not as someone observing but as someone seeing. The projector's light still illuminated the white wall, and on it, the faces of several black women I had photographed still hovered in silence. They seemed to be there for us, sustaining the moment. My sister pulled me by the hand to the corner where the souvenir table was. She took an envelope from her purse and handed it to me. "Open it," she said with a nervous smile. Inside was an enlarged copy of the photo the photographer had just taken. The four of us side by side, with the lights reflecting equally on each face. On the back she had written, "So you never again doubt the light that was already yours." I smiled, but my heart was heavy. It was beautiful, yes, but part of me still needed to understand if that apology was regret or relief. Then I looked at her and I noticed. There was real vulnerability. Her glow was no longer the same. It was more human, more serene. "Thanks," I said. "But this photo is not the end yet." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "We still need to show it to those who weren't here." I went to the technician, asked for the microphone. He hesitated, but handed it over. "I want to show one last thing," I announced, and people turned their eyes to me. On the big screen, I switched the video for a new projection. A large, centralized QR code, with the caption "Unfiltered Portraits." "All the photos you just saw are available here," I explained. "They are faces of Black women who decided to photograph themselves in natural light, without retouching, without tone correction." Some guests took out their phones. Others approached in silence. I continued. "This is not a story about color. It's about presence. About learning to look without comparing. About not confusing clarity with value." People began to scan the code. On their phone screens the faces appeared. Of all ages, all tones, all hair types. A girl with long braids, a lady in a headscarf, a teenager smiling with braces. The hall began to fill with the small blue glows of the lit screens. My mother approached, her eyes teary. "Did you do all this by yourself?" "No," I replied. "I did it with all of those who were left on the edges of photos." She hugged me, and the cry that came this time was not of guilt, but of relief. My father joined in, and I felt the weight of their history slowly dissolving, like dust finally finding the floor. Behind us, people continued to look at the images. With each new photo, there were small gasps, murmurs of surprise. The hall, once a stage for vanity, now looked like an impromptu gallery, a living exhibition of everything they had tried to hide. My sister took the microphone again. "I think now we understand what it means to represent," she said. "It's not about speaking beautifully. It's about being. It's about existing fully." People applauded. I smiled and added, "And it's recognizing that existing doesn't need to apologize." The applause grew, now genuine. The technician, emotional, turned up the volume of the instrumental track. A soft, almost ethereal music. The sound filled the hall as the portrait video continued on a loop. I went to the corner and picked up my camera. I took one last photo of the scene. The audience on their feet, the lights reflecting on the diverse skins, the shining eyes. No erased face, no dark edge. On the viewfinder I saw the result and knew. This was the image I had been waiting for my whole life. In the middle of the crowd, a 7-year-old black girl was watching me attentively. A simple dress, natural hair, a curious look. She smiled and signaled to me with her phone, showing that she had also scanned the QR code. I approached and asked her name. "Emanuele," she replied. "Did you like the photos?" "I did. But the most beautiful one is this one," she said, showing the screen with my image, frozen in the video. I felt a lump rise in my throat. "Then keep this one, Manu. To remember that you are also part of the light." She nodded, holding the phone as if it were a treasure. As the hall filled with soft murmurs and cell phone flashes, I realized that the revenge had already transformed into something else. It wasn't punishment. It was revelation. It was returning the truth to the place that always belonged to it, the center of the frame. If this story lit something in you, share it. The light that multiplies is the only one that never goes out. When the last guest left, I was alone in the empty hall. The echo of the footsteps faded, and the white light of the big screen finally dissolved, leaving the room plunged in a quiet twilight. The floor still reflected some fragments of glitter, remains of glasses, sequins, confetti. Everything seemed to witness something that had happened there, something bigger than a party. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. The silence no longer hurt. It was the kind of silence that comes after justice, not that of the courts, but the one that restores inner peace. I felt my body relax, my chest open, as if every cell in me was breathing with relief. I picked up the camera I had left on the table and turned it on. The images were still there. My sister, my parents, the audience, the photos of the women, Emmanuel's smile. Looking back at everything, I realized that each portrait, each tear, each silence was part of the same revelation. I never needed to prove my worth. I just needed to show that it had always been there, whole, even when they tried to hide it. My mother's voice echoed in my memory. Your color was never the problem. The problem was how long it took us to deserve it. Smiled. That was it. Racism didn't erase the glow. It only revealed who still didn't know how to see. As I organized my equipment, my phone vibrated. It was a message from my sister. It's on all the networks. The video is being shared on pages of Black women all over the country. They're calling you the photographer of true light. I felt the tears stream down again, but this time they were of pride. Justice had taken form not in revenge, but in transformation. I didn't need them to suffer what they made me go through. It was enough that they saw what they tried to deny. And now the whole world was seeing. I closed my eyes and thought of all the times I had tried to dim my own glow to fit into others' expectations. I remembered the cropped photos, the wrong lights, the forced laughter to disguise the exclusion. All of that now seemed distant, like an old negative slowly burning. Outside, the early morning was quiet. The sky, clear, displayed a huge full moon, pouring light over the parking lot. I left the hall slowly, and when I passed through the glass door, the moon illuminated me from the front. I smiled, thinking, this is the only light they never denied me. In the car, I let the phone play soft music. I looked at the empty dashboard, my hands firm on the steering wheel. It was the same car I used to flee from dinners where they made me feel small. And now, it was the car that was taking me home with my head held high. Before starting the engine, I took one last photo of the moon's reflection on the hood. A simple but symbolic image. I sent it to my sister with the caption, "The right light always existed." All that was needed was the courage not to look away. I rested my head on the seat and took a deep breath. The feeling was of rebirth. The girl who used to hide on the edges of photos no longer existed. The woman who now drove back home was made of everything they tried to erase. And yet, she continued to shine. As the road opened up ahead, I thought of the girls who would still hear phrases like, "You're pretty for your color." I thought of Emmanuelle, that small hand holding the phone like a beacon. I thought of how many still needed to see that there is no shame in existing in a dark tone, only a beauty that the world has not yet learned to measure. I smiled. And there, in the middle of the silent road, I realized. The real revenge was not to show the mistake of others. It was to prove that I could flourish even in the soil of rejection. That my presence, once treated as a shadow, was the very proof of light. I slowed down, looked out the window, and whispered to myself, they called me ugly so I would doubt the mirror. But the mirror was me. And now, it reflects everything. The moon remained high, illuminating the asphalt like a spotlight. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't running from the light. I was following it. If this story touched you, if you have ever felt invisible, remember, beauty is not what the world allows you to see, but what you choose to turn on. Leave your comment, share this story, and subscribe, because when a Black woman is seen, the whole world learns to see again.